in defense of Warren Beatty at the Oscars. Beatty was not the culprit in Sunday's Best Picture fiasco, though many were quick to jump on him in an ageist rush to judgment. Unlikely as it is, I find myself rising to defend Warren Beatty. It's unlikely because the truth is that, while Beatty can be very charming, I have found him to be rather challenging in some of our past interactions. He is more or less incapable of uttering a simple declarative sentence. Ask him a question and he has a tendency to launch into a meandering response, often without ever getting to an answer. I used to have a rule: never get on the phone with Beatty unless you've gone to the bathroom first. Once, in the middle of a 4-hour conversation while I was researching my book, Hit and Run, I developed the blinding headache and fought the urge to say, whatever I learned in the course of this conversation will not have been worth it. Another time, I told the studio chief that I had just had a 5-hour lunch with Beatty, and without missing a beat he said, "Oh, you only had hors d'oeuvres." Some of that exasperating quality may have played into the Oscar debacle. But let's be fair, it should by now be clear that Beatty, 79, was not the culprit, though many were ever so quick to jump on him. The Steve Harvey jokes started instantly. Beatty blows it, the Drudge Report proclaimed. The tape tells a different story. If you watch it, the actor-filmmaker clearly knows there's a problem as soon as he halfway pulls the card out of the red envelope. He checks to see if there is perhaps, please, God, another card inside. He pauses, admit it, all you ageists, many of you assumed he was having a senior moment. Okay, I kind of thought so, too. In the Academy Award for Best Picture, Beatty begins, then hesitates as Dunaway, who must have been feeling the pressure of the moment, nudges him. "You're impossible," she says. "Come on." He shows her the card. And instantly, she announces, La La Land. He never says the movie's name. You could say this was the ineluctable, the destined outcome, the result of the dual histories of Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, says Beatty biographer Peter Biskind. Both of their personalities played into it. I have no idea what the relationship is like now, but they did not get along during Bonnie and Clyde. And the fact that she kind of lost patience with him and basically grabbed the card and announced it is very much in keeping with their relationship. Beatty's usual elliptical manner might have something to do with it. You can see why she's irritated, says Biskind. You can see he's flummoxed, but she thought it was Warren being Warren, which it wasn't. Some of you ageists think Beatty should simply have said, "There seems to be a problem." But improvisation is not his strong suit and he is not one to blurt out anything publicly, especially this publicly. In the best of circumstances, Biskind says, Warren is not exactly Demosthenes when it comes to public speaking. He thinks if Dunaway hadn't been so quick on the draw, Beatty might have had a moment to collect himself and take the better route. I say that none of you gets to judge if you've never been on television, especially never on live television, and maybe not unless you've been on one of the biggest telecasts in existence. It's not so easy to think fast under those lights in front of that crowd with the cameras rolling, even if you're decades younger than Beatty. And the task of preventing the La La Land group from beginning their speeches should not have fallen to him. By now it's becoming clear that Beatty really was a victim of the septic fail. PricewaterhouseCoopers has apologized to him, to Dunaway and everyone else. Yet, somehow, I suspect this will follow Beatty, and it's not fair. He held on to that wrong envelope, I assumed, to prove that he had been dealt a bad hand. Once the error was cleared up, he stepped up to the microphone and explained, with, for him, uncommon clarity and fluency, what had gone awry. The shame of it is that the whole fiasco was deeply unfair to all involved with La La Land and Moonlight. I would have loved to see the pure moment of a Moonlight victory. Instead, there was confusion and embarrassment all around. It's hard to feel joy in a moment like that, said Mahershala Ali, who won for Best Supporting Actor. "And that is really a pity. We can only hope that those involved with both films ultimately can take the full measure of joy in their achievements, which were, despite the chaos, recognized by their peers." Oscars, how an accountant's tweet turned into the biggest mistake in Academy history. Chaos erupted both onstage and behind the scenes after a starstruck accountant with PricewaterhouseCoopers handed Warren Beatty the wrong envelope for Best Picture. Oscar night's Best Picture fiasco, in which the top award was mistakenly given to La La Land before it was taken back and handed to the actual victor, Moonlight, continues to be a car wreck that keeps replaying in slow motion. And as it does, more details are emerging about how the unprecedented gaffe affected those at the center of the pile-up. Having just felt the elation of being called to the stage as a Best Picture winner, La La Land producer Fred Berger sensed something was wrong. Standing alongside his fellow producers Jordan Horowitz and Mark Platt, he looked out from the stage and saw a crew member next to the timer clock waving his arms frantically and furiously shaking his head no. Then Berger heard someone nearby yell, "It's wrong. Moonlight won." At first, he wondered if an interloper, a protester of some kind, had wandered downstage. But then stage manager Gary Natoli himself rushed on stage, carrying a red envelope of his own, showing it to Berger and Horowitz as Platt gave his acceptance speech. At that moment, Berger and Horowitz realized La La Land hadn't won, Moonlight had. In the audience, several Lionsgate executives were hugging each other and jumping up and down when one of their colleagues uttered ominously, "Something is wrong with the card." Platt, who was unaware of what had happened, wrapped up and pushed Berger to give his acceptance speech. At first Berger said no. "But I thought, I really want to thank my wife and my family," he told THR later that night. So he did. And then he ended his speech by saying, "We lost, by the way." Horowitz rushed in and said, "There's a mistake, Moonlight, you won Best Picture." It was the biggest blunder in Oscar history, with many in the media initially blaming presenters Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. But several hours after the event, PricewaterhouseCoopers, the accounting firm that tabulates and hands out the results, took responsibility for the mistake and issued an apology to all involved. The chaos that ensued was all because Beatty had been handed the wrong envelope. He was given the extra copy of Emma Stone's Best Actress card, by Brian Cullinan, chairman of the U.S. Board of PwC. Sharing Academy Award duties with colleague Martha Ruiz, Cullinan is known for being enamored with Hollywood and tweeted a photo of Stone backstage after her win, just minutes before he handed the wrong envelope to Beatty. The only two people who know the results ahead of time are the two accountants from PwC, who each have a full set of envelopes and stand in opposite wings of the theater since they don't know from which side the presenters will enter. No one has yet offered an explanation why the PwC accountants didn't immediately correct the mistake, especially when Beatty was clearly confused and paused before showing the card to Dunaway, who announced, "La La Land." It took 2 minutes and 25 seconds from when Dunaway said the name of the film to when Horowitz said Moonlight was the real winner, an eternity under such circumstances. There was definitely a delay before they told stage manager Gary Natoli, says a source. Natoli in turn informed the show's producers, Michael De Luca and Jennifer Todd, who were backstage watching the monitors, and director Glenn Weiss. Natoli rushed on stage and informed the La La Land team what was happening. Host Jimmy Kimmel, who was seated in the audience because he was planning to wrap up the show with a bit with frenemy Matt Damon, saw that something was wrong and rushed on stage as well. There were possibly other hitches that might have set the stage for the disaster. Sources say there was an intricate set change plan that would have given Beatty and Dunaway a more dramatic entrance, but it was scrapped at the last minute. There's a chance that also threw off the flow of the event and perhaps contributed to the chaos. With the dust now settling, the question becomes who will take the fall for the greatest flub in Oscar history? The Academy normally has an awards committee hold a post-mortem within 1 month of the annual broadcast, and the committee then takes its analysis to the Academy Board, which will hold its next meeting March 28. But sources say there was a meeting right after the show, and that Academy President Cheryl Boone Isaacs and CEO Don Hudson were livid when reps for PwC didn't immediately take responsibility for the error, trying to suggest it was Beatty's fault and initially resisted putting out any kind of statement. PwC, which has overseen the Academy's ballot counting process for 83 years, released its statement of apology 3 hours later. PwC followed up with a second apology, which it described as a revised statement, Monday evening. Saying it took full responsibility for the series of mistakes and breaches of established protocols, it singled out Cullinan for his tweeting during the event and for handing Beatty the wrong envelope. The Academy subsequently issued an apology of its own, to Beatty, Dunaway, the filmmakers and fans. Noting that PwC had taken full responsibility, the Academy said it has begun an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the incident and that it will determine what actions are appropriate moving forward. Some believe the Academy should sever ties with the accounting agency for future awards shows, despite their long-standing relationship. But sources say the Academy could find it very difficult to hire a new accounting company because of the complicated system used for voting tabulation as well as the fact that PwC handles other accounting chores for the Academy. Lawyers surveyed don't expect the Oscars flub to result in litigation by the Academy against PwC, although if the Academy wanted to get aggressive, it could attempt to argue that PricewaterhouseCoopers breached a duty of care. The contract could have spelled out the duties of PricewaterhouseCoopers, including an obligation to present the right results, says Devin McRae, a litigator at Early Sullivan. They've been doing this so long, they might have developed a contract that's really detailed. The Academy might attempt to get a price break, telling PwC, "You have to take a hit. This is the worst possible error you can make." Under this scenario, a dispute would only hit the court if the parties couldn't agree on financial compensation for the supposed negligence. If the Academy did sue, McRae says it would be challenged to show damages. The case would likely also explore what was the proximate cause for the flub.